This conference will now be recorded.
Open the meeting at 6:30. And let's get a forum first thing. Okay, here. Chris? Here. Craig?
Here.
Mike, Green will be late. He may be here, he may not. Laura?
Here.
Rachel? Here. Okay, so you're good? Okay. Do we have any introductions or any announcements?
Yeah, good thing to notice. My current plan is that after the March meeting, I'll be resigning. Because of moving issues and stuff, but we're likely to move in late March, early April, so the March meeting will be my last unless something changes. But I'll submit a formal resignation later. That's it.
Well, what if we just don't want to accept it?
We don't.
Okay, but that might jump in and we need to do some workshops and try to get through with our family, and we start losing people.
It also puts you on notice to find a replacement.
Yeah.
Good time to start.
Okay, do we have any citizen presentations for any item that's not on the agenda? Okay. Let's do that, approve the minutes. Did everybody have them? No? You signed them?
I did not see it.
Yeah, they were. Oh, gosh. You go. Thank you. Anybody else? Need to know? Yeah.
Should we have done already?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Are you anyone? Did you find him in there, Lloyd?
I can see the minutes. I look at Amy's song. I can't agree.
Everybody's mic is off. There's one mic that you can hear at my computer. When you want to talk, you press the little button on there, turn it red, and that'll help make it easier for everybody to hear. Less back feed, because as I've said before, when another person makes a noise, it cuts off the mic. So we can start remembering to press the button when we want to talk, turn it off so that we, it'll help us through the process. So I think everybody's mic is off right.
It's good to me.
Do I have a motion to accept the minutes? Okay. Have a second. All in favor? Passes unanimously. And the first part of the new business tonight is for the food truck. So, Will, do you want to?
I'll come here with Ms. Rollins. Just, let me do this. So I know she's got more than one job to do on a daily basis, so she's trying to put this stuff together. I'll let her explain what it is. She had originally sent in an email. She is short some of the information due to needing some direction. I think you said you have your food manager's training certificates. You haven't got it inspected yet?
They're, correct. It was once already inspected, I just have to
Re-inspection, update the inspection of it. And then at that time, you can provide the list of food and beverages that be served, and stating the source and items and so on. So you haven't completed everything. If you have a copy of the state.
No, we're not doing that until I get the
Okay.
inspection. I wanted to go ahead first before I put some effort into.
The money and time. So explain what you're
What I
trying to
wanted to do is, I'm the owner of the business. And I wanted to, maybe talk on the next. And they would, I would be leasing the property or the parking lot for the food truck through the Blanco County Adult Beverage LLC. So I'd be using the water and the electricity from there. But I also have statements that I can use the Blanco City water and the dump station at the RV park or other parks if I needed to do the dump station. It just has a small gray water tank. So I wanted it permanently there. I didn't want to just do it on the weekends or just temporary situation. I wanted to be able to keep it there. And I believe because of the COVID and people not being able to go into restaurants and eating and such, that this would be a great idea for people to just be able to get food and go.
Is this, what'd you say, breakfast, lunch?
It'd be breakfast and lunch. I'd be, the operations would be from 6 to 2. A half hour before and after for cleanup and prep and whatnot. And it would be like sandwiches, soup, breakfast tacos and such.
The location of the truck would be at the back of the liquor store or?
Well, yeah, on the side of it, I have I have the whole parking lot there, and I have ample space on the side of my building.
On 8th Street?
On 8th Street, and there's a fence that connects to the other property. I wouldn't.
So that's where it would be located.
Yes, and
You won't be facing on to it.
no, I'll be on 8th Street.
Just the combined parking for the liquor store and the food truck, how many spaces?
I probably have 10 or 15 spaces there for parking. The liquor store is people just come in and grab their item and leave. I don't have long, the
But something like 10 plus.
Yeah.
22.
yes.
And everything was,
Have a drawing plan of what this looks like. That's one of the requirements. That's what.
it's in the UDC stuff that I gave you to do it.
Oh, the draw, no, I didn't.
Shows where things are.
Oh, okay, no, I did not draw that out. Yes.
You would be getting a permit then, correct?
Yes, I've got everything up, on the way.
And what is the time period for the permit? 2 years or, I mean, I know you said permit, but permanent, but if it's on the permit itself.
You're talking about for the special use permit? The special use permit that we issue for is good for 1 year, and it can only be extended by council.
Okay, so if you wanted this to be a permanent event, you would have to come back every year.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
I think at the end of the day, she's I know we can't 100% approve this going forward without all the information that's required at the UDC. I think she's looking for a little direction where she continues to invest in this. If this, I know I think this kind of started with a couple of months ago when council was open to making some COVID exceptions to allow for food trucks to come in to support certain businesses and provide some different variety in the town, as long as they're attached to a current business. You know, I don't know how long that exception lasts. Does that exception last? That's something council will have to make a determination. And naturally that opinion changes as council changes. So coming years down the road, I can't say that guarantee that the permit is extended year over year over year over year. But I think council at the time felt that there was a need for some additional services to be provided in the city to existing businesses, not to set up a freestanding food truck parking area, so only food trucks.
So you're leasing this space from the liquor store, is that correct?
Yes, I would lease the space from the liquor store.
And is that going to be like an annual basis also?
Yes, for as long as I can operate, yes.
It will be an annual basis, and the parking designation, you will have you will have the parking, leased also, so that you make sure that you have it there.
Correct.
I'm sorry, Sue, I was asking to try if you could put that up on the screen.
What are you gonna put on the screen?
You know, what liquor store.
It'd be much better than my drawing, I can guarantee you that. So thank you. And we know, and like I said, it's not, I mean, the parking, I have the whole parking lot, it's all,
But the reason I thought we could see it, because I think what she wanted to put the food for, a food truck, it's very well kind of screened.
Is your light on?
Sorry.
Mhm.
It's kind of screened, and it's not something that's just out there. I think it's kind of, I won't say hidden away, but it's kind of unobtrusive, I don't think.
So I'm real done. The food truck, this is 8th Street here, and I would have the food truck right here. So this is the other building, and they only have 2 feet all the way to the parking. The rest of this is my parking as well. This is also my parking, and this is my parking. And because of the COVID and a lot of situations, my liquor store had a pickup window now, so a lot of people just pick up and go as well. And that's what I was thinking with a food truck is, I would have it here, and people would just, I mean, I have the picnic table, so we want to sit and eat, but it's mainly gonna be, you know, a lot of it isn't going to be, customers that are parked there for hours on end. Unless they're shopping, but.
That's my next question. Is this intended as kind of a grab and go type
Yeah,
operation?
pretty much, and I'll have, and like I said, right underneath this tree, this is a really nice tree, I would be able to put a sitting area up there for talking and such, but it would be, so I would time you see the food truck that sit back there, there's a fence along there. But I would put a sitting area there, people that were waiting for their food and such. But you can see that there's a lot of parking still. The food truck, I want to say is 16 feet long, maybe a little smaller. It's not a very large food truck.
And you said that you're gonna be using water and electric from the liquor store.
Yes.
And there's no bathrooms or anything like that.
Yeah. And I believe as long as it's not a food court, restrooms are not necessary.
That's correct.
How about after, I'm sorry.
Okay.
How about after when the COVID gets whatever, it's their way? Would you increase the amount of outside seating, and also do you have plans to serve liquor or just?
I cannot serve liquor, there'll be no liquor served, no beer, wine, anything. Yeah, there's no consumption on the property. I have to go through those rules. And I would love to keep it still going after the COVID and such. But I still think a lot of people don't want to just sit there and eat for, 20, 30 minutes, however long it takes to eat, but.
Well, I made it, sister, also the way that the parking goes, it makes kind of a horseshoe so that the ingress and egress can be separate, where the folks coming into and out of the liquor store and people are coming around from the north side of the building to approach and access the food truck. So we're just seeing the one side, but there's more area on the north side.
I have an entrance on it.
And
She has a full
when
set.
this first came up, personally, my reaction was, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And the only resistance is we haven't seen half the documentation that's required to approve it. That the things that are required that I know will.
Well, I just didn't, my food truck's already, I'm sorry. Who's going through a divorce? The food truck already had the EIN number, it was already, okay by the state, I have my state certification.
What you don't have is the things that are required in UDC, which I don't want to remember our plan, is a plat showing what the situation's going to be. It shows where the building's going to be, it shows what parking is, and it's not.
It's,
There are several other things in there. So, even though we might approve the concept, we can't approve the application.
that's correct. Tonight, we just need to because there's additional expenses involved, she has not provided all that. She can put all that together and come to the next one for approval of the application. She's really looking for direction to make sure, before she continues to put money into this, that it's something that the city of Blanco would feel.
And that's what I said.
And you're right.
Just speaking for myself, I approve the concept. I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
I don't see any real problem with it as long as you go through the things that you go through.
And there's more than one, so everybody else, I'd like to hear.
Yeah.
No, and again, I just wanted to make sure that this was something that the city would allow me to do before I went, like I said, too much money and time and everything involved into it. I can gather all that stuff. I've already had, but I was told a while back that food trucks weren't allowed in the city limits. And
Originally,
yeah, when
The food truck ordinance provided for it.
it provides for temporary.
Yeah, when I first purchased the food truck.
There's
when I
two
had
different ones. So
everything.
there's one that allows 10 days out of a 30-day period. And then there's the special use permit, which allows for a 12-month period, but most people don't want to go through that.
And that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing we could do it.
Right now, yes.
Yeah, I agree with RK. I mean, I am liking what you're doing here. I don't see a problem having a food truck next to the liquor store, as
Okay.
long as you're not serving drinks. And people aren't going to be running around. They can't go in your place and get food or get a drink.
There's no alcohol
No.
consumption.
TABC rules won't allow them to be
Just want to
consumed.
make sure
Okay, yeah,
that
that's-
we know that.
Yes.
Okay.
The other thing is that we've been stuck before by not having all the paperwork. And as far as I'm concerned, Will, you know what paperwork that she's supposed to have. You don't have to come in here and come before us and not have the paperwork. it's not an excuse.
Hmm.
So I would like for you to get with her, make sure she has all the proper paperwork, and when she does that, like for her to come back, but I don't think anyone here has an objection. As long as she has the special use permit, which I think she needs to have, then I'm certainly open myself.
The special
I don't know
use,
about the rest of everybody else.
right, there's other things here that she has to put together and the cost as well. But she has a copy, she didn't have all the other check boxes off here because there's expense into it. So she'll put it together and bring it back for approval.
You talked about the sewer and electricity. What is the plan for the trash?
It would be city trash.
Okay. And would you have a receptacle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The trash?
Oh,
We call it garbage.
yeah.
And we're also ask if we can at some point have some clarification on the language in the UGC as compared to in the ordinance. There's a couple of discrepancies that I'm clear on. I think the discrepancies, maybe no one else would.
Let's get to with her, and then let's talk
Yeah,
about that,
and,
because I like
so-
she'll make your questions there for everybody to talk about.
But I think we could express a straw vote of approval of the concept, support of the concept, if we get the proper documentation. Personally, I would say that.
And what would you do with the solid waste? Tell me how you're going to dispose of that?
I have, and I have documentation of that. The RV park allows you to take I have I get a portable water and portable gray water. And you just take it up to the RV and you use their septic dump station like an RV would.
What are these parts?
The one on 165.
Okay.
I have the,
Michael Sediment?
yeah.
I would like to see that documentation for the solid waste disposal. We'll make sure that you have that. And
Okay,
there's no bathroom, so that you're not going to have a bathroom there. And you're gonna get a special use permit, so that's good. The road access and the parking, I assume that there'll be plenty, do y'all see plenty of room there for us to be able to have parking?
this is what the
That's what we have to see a layout.
health department was following.
Okay, so let's make sure that you come back with the diagram
Okay.
with the parking and the road access,
Yes.
because you can't block
Yeah,
the
just need
road.
to take a copy of it.
Okay. Okay, when she gets it all back together, you can give it to us, and I'd like for you to give it to us before the night of the meeting, so that we'll have a chance to look at it, and then we will be able to come back. I'm not archaic, I think everyone here.
Okay,
We don't have a problem with what you're trying to do, but we don't know yet until you get us all. the
yes, ma'am. Yeah, and like I said, I apologize for that. I knew what paperwork and things you needed. It's just I didn't want to, I wanted to make sure that everyone, was okay with and not say, no, we don't want a food truck in our area, period. And so I just want to make sure that before I put everything together, that it was at least a thought that would be looked over.
One last question, and it might be overkill.
Bring it up to your-
One last question, and maybe overkill. If this is going to be a permanent offering on the site, will that change the need for restrooms?
No, because I think I read it in your paperwork that unless it's a one or two or more food trucks, or like a park, then you would have to provide restrooms. I mean, yes, I could provide, yes. If it looks like it's busy and people are sitting around more, yes, you can rent the porta potties and have them serviced.
Because I saw that as well, but I assumed that was for temporary, so I just didn't know if it would be different from permanent.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
while it's a permanent use, it's still a mobile vehicle, so it doesn't fall into the category.
Okay.
But yes, if one was necessary, I know they have that service where they clean and dump or whatever you want to call that.
It's not a permanent use, is it?
You're correct, that's what I mean. She's asking for
Well,
permanent,
yeah.
but it's still up.
It would have to be.
Yeah, 12 months
by
at a time.
council
Absolutely.
on your-
Every year.
We don't have to think of it as permanent use.
Right.
So would you like to see that? I mean, I can look into,
No, I don't think you have to require,
okay,
it's not required by the UDC.
okay.
It's not, it's a 12-month period. I don't think we have to add into the Porta Can unless somebody really wants.
Main thing I was kind of concerned about when I read to see it's gonna be at the back of the, record store. And that's why I'm glad Trey has a capability to show it, so I can kind of see that. You know, the only thing that you might consider the people that have the apartments, you know, to the east. Because I think there's 3 units in there now. It's a lot of trees.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a large tree barrier.
So will they get a notice for the property owners next to this, get a notice to see if we have any pushback?
Yeah.
Do we have to have a public hearing on special use permit?
Yes, this is a public hearing tonight,
No.
right?
Well,
Did you not?
Not public notice, no, it has not been public notice as a public hearing, but it's not generally, it depends on what the special use permit is for. I don't have my book, I have to look that up and see.
I don't know, I'm asking the question.
Tonight right now is not a public hearing because it's not going to be approved if everything wasn't put together. So this is a counseling session to give guidance.
But if there is a public hearing required,
I'll
we
look-
gotta know that
Yes.
sooner rather than later.
I'll look it up. I don't think it is, but I'll look it up and make sure.
Well, so you're saying that the joining properties do not have to be notified that they're going to have a food truck next to them?
I'll look it up and see.
Thank you.
I would think if it's a commercial property.
I don't think, but we'll look and see. Fair enough.
Okay, so get all the paperwork together and bring it back and we'll have to look at it. See what we can do.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt.
I want to raise there because.
You know, when I have stuff too, but we've been stuck several times because we didn't have all the paperwork and we allowed to have it. And I think that we need to come back to.
Party is designated, so it should let you. So you read through some of
Like
them.
I said, we'll know that. We need to get that.
I don't think parking's gonna be a problem because typically what you see around these food courts is not that many people there.
It's more than that.
But no, the gym.
Thank you.
Where they have totally enough parking for their business. We don't want that here. Yeah, yeah. If something gets real popular, then it becomes a problem.
Right, Chris, before we go on, you have some questions, it's now the time to address the food truck problems on the food truck.
Okay, did Susan pass any of this information on to you, Will? About the food truck ordinance?
Didn't say him anything, I said,
Okay, here's, last night, better late than never, I was reading through all my notes, and what I'm afraid of is that I'm sorry, I have no memory anymore. The food truck ordinance was signed in April of 2019.
Was
Yeah,
it 18?
I think so.
18, okay, that's right, 18. The UDC was updated in July of 19. Don't think the ordinance was put into the UDC. So now we are at odds between the 2018 ordinance and the 2019 version because the 2018 ordinance calls for conditional use permits, which I don't believe we got.
There's no conditional use permit, it's supposed to be a special use permit.
Okay, and I just wanted to confirm it, and also the language is not into the UDC. And then we were asking what's 4.5 or 4.15. Turns out the UDC has 4.14 as vested rights at 4.15 is the mobile court, but it's not clear in the ordinances, there's some discrepancy. And here's the chart that was supposed to go in the UDC that deals with the permitting. So I just wanted to confirm that we probably should clear this up and decide what's supposed to go in the UDC before we go too
Well,
much.
the ordinance rules right now, because there's nothing in the UDC for it. So the ordinance rules right now.
Well, there is.
There is.
I looked at the UDC.
There is, yes, there is some in there, but the ordinance over requires.
The things I looked at were consistent between the ordinance and UDC. I didn't look at everything, but it seemed like the stuff was mostly there. Now, there's some references to a table or two. But I didn't see anything like in the requirements that jumped out as being different between the two, which made me think it had been put in there somewhere.
It hasn't been put in, it needs to be updated, because the ordinance itself is a little bit contradictory between temporary, permanent use. So that needs to be updated prior to, and we talked about that at council level, and then COVID came along, and it's already changed as far as the way we're dealing with it from a council, from a food, because generally they did not allow the way that we're trying to use food trucks now.
Yeah, I mean, technically, which one governs? I would have thought the UDC governed since it's subsequent to the ordinance. So whatever's in there, seems like that's the governing thing. Ordinances are supposed to be incorporated in,
Right.
so that when the UDC is updated, it becomes the governing document.
That's correct. But if the ordinance isn't brought in, this is when you fall back to the ordinance. That'd be my.
But if it's in there, but there's some differences.
I know, because we can write anything we want to in the UDC. The ordinance actually has to be passed.
Well, so does UDC.
It does, but it's a little, I would say that council doesn't read the UDC as thoroughly as y'all do.
This is why I just brought the meeting. I was just afraid we might get this information that might turn out to be less than accurate because of the progress.
We've got to further define, but like I said, Ms. Moore, I've given her the information to provide. She has not had time to put it together. We didn't have to hear it tonight, but she's really looking for some direction beforehand. So I went ahead and put it through. You always have the right to deny and not hear it. But I asked for the information, I require the information. If they don't give it, I can't help you with that.
Well, I just want to say, they have been very lax. And it's my fault. We've been very lax on requiring correct paperwork, and you need to stop. We don't make these regulations, hopefully the city doesn't accept it to be followed for good reason. And so I would like to not have it before us until, and I would like to have the information before we come up here that night, so that we can look at it.
I would too as well, and I would not expect a decision tonight based on the fact that she had not gotten to me, and I followed up even when you asked about the agenda, I followed up, she said she would be there, but I also asked her to provide the information. And two things, I'm not gonna hear it myself, I wouldn't hear it if they're not here to represent themselves and they don't provide all the information, it has to be all of it.
Okay, so in future, let's get, we have the information. Required information.
One of the things on the application, which I assume is null and void, said they wanted to start on February 15th.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
But you know, I appreciate having somebody come in early on and trying to get some direction.
And if it had been done 2 months ago, we might have been at that point.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
And if this was the city council, is there any way you can get a copy of those minutes? I don't know what city council decided.
They were just, I'll get the information on it, I have it written at the office, but it's basically, it wasn't anything formal, just other than them being open to supporting local businesses with food courts and making special allowance during COVID. I'm sorry, food trucks, not food courts.
So what happens after COVID?
So, the answer to that.
We already have a permanent food truck right there's north of Peterson Tire.
That one's grandfathered in from the previous deal. That actually probably coming up next year too. That one and the one out on the north side of town too.
Okay, I sent y'all a copy of the comprehensive master plan notice that I sent to Will.
I did look at that.
Well, we went over that a lot, didn't we? You thought, heads up, what's going on now? Okay, and so Will said he didn't get that. My notes said that I gave it to Will with all the backup, but he said he didn't get it, so that's why I gave him a formal notice on the email and copied you on some of the documents that go with it. And if you don't have anything else, well, and if you need anything else, let me know.
Put it on the agenda today.
Okay, so the next thing that we need to talk about tonight, I would like to discuss with everyone the subdivision lot standards. We just went through a application for PDD, and we gave all kinds of variances for lot standards, et cetera, kind of thing. I gave you all chapter 5, the subdivision land development. I sent it to you on email. And the thing that I don't understand, well, the thing that City Council asked me at their last meeting, if you're in a subdivision and you have acreage, do the streets count as against the acreage for property?
Let me try to answer that. Units per acre and the minimum lot areas, you'll see that, for example, R2 is 3 units per acre with at least 11,000 square feet lot. Well, that's only like 3/4 of an acre. So those things, the reason the density is different, you could put 4 11,000 yard lots an acre. The difference is to allow the other thing. So the density is intended to cover everything. It's the total acreage of the development divided by units. And it has a fudge factor in there to allow for other things, the infrastructure. So yes, the answer to your question is there's no separating that out. If you have a 10-acre tract, you can put 30 things on it, and you got 50 infrastructure in there with it.
Okay, I hear you, and so I'm not getting there yet, so I want to talk about it for just a minute. I understand that, like when we did the property, the lost property, they faced the road that were existing roads. So we had no problem with that.
The outside.
Outside, they were existing roads. In these subdivisions, we are chewing up property, land value and densities, if that's what we want to call it. But the problem is that it allows, yeah, that's good that you put that up there. It allows for a lot more houses within that acreage and we looked at that. And that's what we got a lot of pushback for, I think, from the citizens, because those homes, even if we hadn't given them the variance for the 45 feet, now we're talking about, instead of having 6 and 8 acres of land to develop as you would in a normal process where you had existing roads on the outside, now you've got roads going down through the middle. So, and at one point, somewhere in here, I was reading where it said the property to the first street. Well, if that's the case, we would have had to break that down, not the 6 and 8 acres. We would have had to look at it in parcels because those roads would have cut off that whole thing. No?
If the roads are internal to the design, they're counted in the acreage and density. went through all this when we was trying to revise these things. And I kept looking at everybody's numbers and saying, wait a minute, it doesn't add up. So I figured out there's usually about somewhere like a quarter of the thing left over for infrastructure. So you can, if you can build the roads and still fit that many 6,500 square foot lots in it, that's allowable. If you didn't have to build roads, then you got room for more lots. If you want to change that, you change the densities.
Well, on 173, it has a calculation in there, in the UDC code that regarding calculated net site area. And there's a calculation that they go through, which I don't understand the calculation, I'm sorry. I want to bring that up because I feel like that we're going to have more requests for subdivisions. And so you're saying that the roads are inclusive.
Yeah. You got X acres, you got to get your infrastructure out and still abide by these minimum lot sizes. And that tells you how many things you can do. So as long as you keep it under that number.
Surveyor manual, so I kind of, and I recall something I learned in that class about, and correct me if I misinterpret this, but my understanding is when you have a plat, it becomes simultaneous. The roads are already on the plat, the lots are on the plat, everything's already been calculated in. And so that the plat, that's why it's so important to have a plat done by a registered professional land surveyor, engineer, to make sure all of these percentages for the particular laws governing our area are met. So at the time the plat is put in, everything is in place and they're good to go, like RK said, it's already calculated in. So we can go with the square footage on the lots in the subdivision plan. And then I believe I saw something very similar to that, and I think it was chapter 22 of the Muni Code. At any point, it addresses something very similar about the net area of the property. Does that make sense to you guys, to you folks? You've dealt with it, Laura.
Yeah, but I've got another question here, and I think we all have to be able to answer. I know that in San Antonio, there are different layouts of the streets. In some of the street, you actually own the center of the street. And so therefore, if you plan it, your ownership of that part of it goes to the middle of the street. You have to own the street. I don't know. I don't think we have anything like that here. Do we? If you know.
No, there once was, and there's a common with a lot of small towns that the road, their property lines went to the middle of the road. For example, around here, we go to the middle of this street and the courthouse property come and meet it and so on. But over time, most of those have been conveyed back to the city through easements and so on. But if you're talking about what RK is talking about, the overall density, that includes the sidewalk, the streets, curves, fire hydrants, utility easements, whatever might need to be encompassed in that density.
And that's, I mean, if you look at the RT requirement, for example, it says 5 units per acre. But if you did 6 times 6,500, that's 39, that's still less than an acre. But the reason it's not 6 and it's 5 is to allow for the other things. And we couldn't make it 6, but then there's no room left over for the other. You got houses crammed in those streets. That's why there's usually a quarter or so left over in an acre. Residential 1, the same thing. You gotta have at least 32,500. So that leaves another 11,000 out of an acre. That takes care of the other stuff. So it is the total piece divided by the number of lots. And you gotta keep within that density and make it more than that minimum square foot lot. So it's all there. The way you change that is you change the density or the square foot of the lot or something. But you don't get worried about pulling out the streets and then dividing what's left by the number of lots. That's just not the way it works.
I will take you to word.
If I say it convincing enough people believe.
I will take you to word. Because when I look at this, I know in this one area, it talks about entire tract of proposed subdivision. And that's on page 172, which would be different than if you buy, like those lots, like I said, that Los Altos, because there were no street inside the subdivision.
They have a little different situation.
They had a different situation, but there were no streets inside.
No, they do have rear entry all the way through.
And
And that one,
They have rear entry, they have a driveway, an alley in the back, so that's encompassed in their minimum square footage and so on as
I
well.
just, and I will adhere to what you guys are saying. I'll research it some more though, of course, but, I know we have to include the streets. And so, as a whole, I guess, the whole subdivision.
See, if you took out, say if you took out all the infrastructure and divided the land that was left by the minimum square footage, you could probably get even fewer lots, but you might get more, just depends on how much you spend on infrastructure. So the idea is that this density and this lot size gives you flexibility to build the infrastructure, but still keep it above that size. You could do it the other way by the.
And I guess if you looked at that formula that they
It
have,
doesn't work out when you're doing it like somebody owns an individual lot. That's already been done.
whole different.
That is what it is.
Right.
But when you're developing more than one lot,
That formula is just for impervious cover. That's something completely different. So then you have your lot that is whatever square footage I was set on the density. Now you have to abide by, you can only have impervious cover for X percentage, which should be covered on that. Yeah, 70, or 70, 75, 65, 70, 25%, depending on which zoning district. That's on 171. But basically, that's just saying on each individual lot, if I were to build a house and a driveway and everything else, I cannot cover more than. Well, on R4, I cannot cover more than 65% of the length. So that's all that calculation is giving you, is how. It's giving you the basis of what your impervious cover is, so that's completely different. Caveat to.
Okay, I read the
so was that the main issue we were talking about, was the lot density and lot size?
Well, the whole
I
thing.
thought maybe we were talking about they weren't consistent with the part in chapter 4, but I think they are.
I think they're consistent. I just was concerned about, because I know that we gave a lot of variances, which really increased the density of the subdivision. And maybe we shouldn't have done it at all, because if we push back and, we're here to follow the EDC codes, but we're also here to do what the citizens want us to do and what they really will not accept.
At the time, I said we should not lower that street width, because that allowed it. We should have kept the street width, that's requirement. But the argument was he was doing some other things that kind of alleviate that. But that's what happens, if you give a variance on lot size and street width, then you have a lot more stuff in it. So we held to the lot size in our recommendation of the board. We did give on the street width, basically got it up from 45, from 40, but
So y'all talking about the same subdivision?
the state.
Okay, because I thought you were talking about Los Altos.
We're talking about both.
I'm just trying,
It doesn't really matter what subdivision.
I'm trying to stay on what we're
Yeah,
talking
the only thing I'm saying is, I think in my mind, we erred on the side of not the standards that we have in the UDC with valid reason to give anyone, to give them a variance. That's all I'm saying.
And I probably agree with you.
And so going forward, I just wanted to bring this up about the density and the intensity and the impervious cover that we have in there. And then I was reading some more here regarding, as we talked some, about the large oaks and the root system and what that was going to do. So I just think that maybe we didn't dig deep enough. I just want to bring that now, but I think we're going to be getting a lot more than. And so if it's on our mind now, maybe we can alleviate the problem.
And I think you always have to look at granting variances that increase density on something that's already dense, which is R3 or R5. That's already dense. So, you know, Los Altos was a different situation because there was the 0 lot line versus not. That didn't affect density. Because the total was the same. But at the Stabit one, it did. Street width affected density. And if we left what they wanted on 5,200 instead of 65, it would have really affected density. But yeah, you have to be careful with that.
Isn't some of this to be covered for our city engineers?
No, because we the one that granted the variance.
City engineer didn't take it up until after it's approved.
Approved by city council or approved by the planning board?
Both.
You're still on.
Uh,
Everybody on?
Come on,
You're on?
you're on.
Yeah, you are. No. Okay, that's all I want to do. And I think that it's good enough for me anyway to understand where we all are on, if we don't get together unless we got a meeting. We can't call each other and have this discussion, so I just want to make sure that we were all kind of on the same page.
Just be glad that we changed the minimum lot size up to 6,500, because it was down around 5,000, and it would be even larger. The density was, I think, in R3 instead of 5, it was 8 units per acre in the old one. So this is better than what we had. There's a viable argument by neighbors in of these divisions that maybe it is too small still, but.
Well, I don't have it in front of me now. I tried to get all this together. I have a lot of paperwork on, but I noticed that when I looked at the comprehensive master plan again, we had some, the citizens are not up to, they're not wanting us to change their country feel. And so when we begin to, I wish I had that.
But I thought that in that master plan, and I wasn't here, or I'm not talking, so I didn't hear all that, but I read it. I thought that they did say something about having more density. And they go to more density, you know?
That was the usual verbiage about affordable housing, which means greater density. Don't remember. All I remember was keep the look and feel type comments. But again, that was 50 citizens and 50 high school students.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, but you know what, if you look back on the previous one, they only had 80 people that were involved. So this was 100. And I had those things set out, because I wanted to discuss that very thing.
Send it on the screen.
Yeah, and I had a little, yeah, that's good right there. But, one of the things that, one of the things that they didn't want. Have everything looked at. They wanted additional housing. They were concerned with the housing. The thing that is, they have housing now at the edge of town. And so that didn't seem to be one of the major things that they were asking for.
Since November 2022, and then the monthly survey report.
I'm sorry?
We're referring to what Martha has in the survey.
Yeah, it was there and on the survey results also. Which is what we have this on the screen. And, I'm really sorry. I took the survey and did a summary of the survey. And, I guess what I do is I didn't bring. But anyway, I think that if you looked at this survey, what you would see is, for instance, I don't know, I guess we don't even have to go through it. I just want y'all to be aware that, let me see what was some of the things, that like, why do you live in Blanco? And 66% said location and 46 said family. 64% said good atmosphere.
Percentages don't mean how many people.
And also 50% of these are high school seniors.
Surveys that have limited participation are sort of like the master plan. A guide to things you do, but you don't take them literally as law. Because it's, a survey of that limited, people respond, is not reflective of the town. It's reflective of the people who answered the survey. And they either have strong feelings one way or another. So you take it, you try to glean out of those things what you can, trends or general ideas, but you don't take the numbers as law. And when you have 100 people, percentages mean nothing. Did 17 people say this or 6? I would say, personally, I try not to get hung up in those limited sampling activities other than just looking for general ideas.
Well, that's what, I guess, I did find on the sheet, that's what I was looking at in that, some of the things they said that was most important to them. Now, I granted that we had high school students.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying
We can't,
it's not reflective
we
of the
wouldn't
town.
make our decision on that perhaps, but still, the survey that went out, 50% was high school seniors. So that was 100 people, 50 people were high school and 50 were not. And of the residents, 22% was age 50 to 64. And all I'm saying is that if you go through that survey, you keep coming up with, they like family atmosphere, they like ambience of the town and the lifestyle. They want to improve the roads, they want to improve the water system. They want walkability. They want to help local business. They want to, for facilities and activities, they're asking, a lot of them are saying dining was the first and second choice. And recreation was the third and fourth choice. So, when you look at all of this, it says businesses would benefit from attracting more dining establishments, growing the mix of retail businesses, improve sidewalk and lighting, and new tourist-friendly business. I mean, none of those things that I read in that survey is anything that I have not heard from citizens. Now, maybe we can't make laws according to the survey, but I think that we have to at least take it into account. We can't just disregard it by saying none of the people responded.
But I don't think we have this. Every time one of these things come up, so we have talked about the look and feel. What does it do to the neighborhood? What is the impact? So I think we are thinking about those things. Now, you could argue with the choices we made in one or other. But I think that common theme of the look and feel of the small town has been on all our minds. Certainly been on mine.
I just want to say, because, like, we know we need businesses, they want retail, but they don't want big office, and they said, the main comment that she said that came through in this was, citizens love their small town where people care about each other and they don't want to see that change. So what they're asking us to do is to consider those issues when we have somebody come before us for either permit or if subdivisions come in. Go ahead.
I'm not arguing when I said that you made a statement that I think is very important, but it transcends to different people in the community. You said that this reflects this, what you hear from citizens, people that you talk to. My question would be is, just using an example, I'm not saying calling her out, or is that a reflection of what you hear from your friends? And it's okay, yes or no. I'm saying we all talk to different people. I'm in different circles than Trey is in or Rachel's in. I just, when you hear these comments, I mean, the surveys, where the surveys out, I know the surveys are out for everybody, but you know how many surveys I don't take? Just saying, and Trey, you know the same thing. So, I
That's
just,
pretty much out there. What do y'all hear? What are y'all hearing when you talk to your constituents?
I hear the small town charm, want to keep the small town charm.
but more houses or no?
We're a mix. Some people are wanting it because they know the growth is coming and they accept it, and then some are against it because they think it'll ruin the town. So they're split in my friend group.
And I know that before the mud came up, there was no housing, and there still isn't a lot of housing, but that's gonna solve the housing problem. So it doesn't have to destroy this small town look, and that's what I believe that's what we're gonna hear. I hope we have a meeting on this very soon.
Yes.
I would contend that development there is exactly what would destroy the small town. When you look at Dripping Springs, it's the perfect example. You glom these huge developments on the outskirts of town, there is no town. And that will happen here. Development of housing within the town, although it may have to be more dense, is a much better solution than glomming giant subdivision on the outside. I mean, I won't be able to see it, but I know that's what's going
Well,
on.
I'm not for that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that takes care of the housing issue, that people don't have any place to live. But it still allows the city of Waco to have housing growth, but we don't have to have the density that maybe we would have had to have before within the city limits. And I agree, I hate to see new Waco and old Waco. But if that happens, we're going to have to deal with it. And so hopefully we can make Blanco, the city of Blanco, expand in ways that will not destroy it. I don't know if we can do that or not.
So to wrap up, Arcady proved my point that there's varying philosophies. I'm not agreeing or arguing with Arcady.
You can agree.
We'll argue later.
You're running out of time.
The point, that's true. But the point is, there's varying thoughts and processes out there for whether or not one thing is good or one thing is bad. And I would encourage the commission, is the best part about the P&Z that I've enjoyed being a part of or witnessing, is that you can't all have the same opinion. You can't all agree. You gotta, I mean, at the end of the day, you're gonna agree to something, but you've got to have those varying differences of opinions and philosophies, whether it be, yes, we should have more density in town and not outside, or we should have vice versa. Work it out. Y'all done a pretty good job with this.
I'll say this, I'm against sidewalks. I know you are,
Take a stand somewhere.
because I couldn't park in front of my house. I had a sidewalk.
Yeah, there's some
It'll
parts,
be hard to drive anyway.
there's some parts in the large cities and neighborhoods that come together and not allow sidewalks in their neighborhoods. So it's not just here. I mean, we're talking about large cities, metropolitan cities, And they're like, some neighborhood will say, we don't want your sidewalks, don't put any in, and they block it. So
You know, rural people want sidewalks here, at least that's what I hear. But there's gonna be preferences one way or another.
It's like anything else. People with kids who want to definitely want sidewalks. People with elderly parents, somebody who have mobility issues, they want. The majority of the population, you know,
Well, there's a lot of population that don't want.
most of this stuff, you ask what we hear. The most common thing I hear is when someone's ox is being gored, like the neighbors of a development, that you hear that.
Mhm.
But, and that then wipes out all other options. So that's vocal. But you don't hear in hardly anyone I ever talk to, you know, a reasoned thought about what way things ought to be. It's I want the small town. Okay, how do you get that?
But I want more housing too.
Yeah.
And I want it to be affordable.
When Bruce Peel first became mayor, and maybe we were going through this zoning thing, and we sat down one day and he said, tell me, I hear this, I want to keep small town blanket. What does that mean? And I said, what I think is the truth. I can't describe it, but I know it when I see it. I know what a small town looks like, and I know the kind of thing that kills it. And you pretty well know that when you see it. Shooting shopping centers kill it. Big developments on the outside of town kill it. Traffic through the middle of town kills it. A lot of things that kill it.
Well, you're exactly right, but that's a subject, I think a lot of people could say the same thing, is I know it when I see it, it's all subjective. And not disagreeing with it, but somewhere along the way, we're pretty spread out among different opinions. And the crux of the issue is while people may be upset about the immediate neighbors in the subdivision here, these people on this side of town really are for it, because that means there's not someone there, or for whatever reason it may be.
Well, that's all well and good. Where I live, we have seniors and we have students and like moms with baby carriages trying to push it in front of the EMS station because there's no sidewalks. The roads are banked, you can't walk on them safely. I'm getting requests to put in a hiking path, you know, to lay out a hiking path from the breweries to the wineries. So, but it's really hard to find spots that are safe to walk in because there is no regard for pedestrians. And you can't have charm if you're gonna be flying by it in a vehicle. If you don't have the vehicles, then you need to have some other options, maybe golf carts that are given permission to drive through the square. I mean, there's gotta be some other options. And if you're gonna keep the small town feel, at least give the people that are around here options to get around so you don't have to change the feel of the town to accommodate it. That's my thought.
Absolutely not disagreeing with you.
I like, well, we never disagree.
Oh, I do. I do, but it's hard to take a stance one way or another, you know, it's kind of like, well, I like that idea, I like that idea, but you can't have it all, because there's always be somebody that's against it for another reason, it's just trying to make the best decision and direction on it. Again, if you don't stand for sidewalks, battle it out, let's come to a happy medium, but I think that's important that you don't have to agree, work together to come to a solution.
Our life is get sidewalks. I don't get people parking on the street.
There you
In
go.
front of their houses.
But the other reason that I want to bring this up is because this is going to, we have to think about this when we're doing this. It all comes together, so that the discussion that I wanted to bring up was so that we have on our mind, you may not agree with me, you may not like my opinion, and that's fine. Y'all each have your own, but we have to look at this when we're doing zoning.
And I think we all.
And before we get
I
into
think
zoning,
we are too.
I would like to update you on a few discussions we're having in development. We're already in this, are you ready to talk about that?
Yeah, because we need to get on our zoning map, because we have somebody that's gonna leave us in the middle. Which, we're going to have some workshops because, okay, won't be here, and we need to get to some
I'm very comfortable leaving it.
development.
So
You're being pretty.
why are you right there?
So what are we talking about?
Uh, This is, the, property next to P&Z
Yeah,
that's been bought for another lumber company, lumber yard. They have not submitted anything yet, I'm just making y'all aware of what's coming in, and
Is that where the pipeline street going?
yes.
where that pipeline stuff was.
Where the MPDs were at, yes. I just wanted to hand it to you. They're working on submitting plans. They've kind of given me some rough layouts. They have put together a final plat. They've shown,
This is good.
this is still preliminary, but this is what they're putting together. Two large buildings, I've already had the fire review, most of it from a standpoint of fire lanes, hose pulls, things like that. So we started trying to get them really at least an hour a day for the past 7 days, meeting with them, trying to get the right stuff together. Really, I'm open to anything you have to offer, but I just want to make you aware it's not anywhere near ready to present. They may fast track everything and get ready for the next P&Z meeting. I don't know, but I just wanted y'all to be aware of it.
There are two versions of this in different pages. There's that one and there's this.
This one is a hose, okay, this is the actual building, this is the hose layout.
No,
Fire hydrant.
parking is in different places. No parking here, no parking all over the place. Here, there. They're not the same.
I wasn't looking at the parking, we're just basically looking
Just in the building.
this one's specifically for hose pull, heavy build around the building from the back.
Because two of the things we should be looking at are what's on the street and they're supposed to be, I think a 50-foot setback
There, yeah,
from the street. What is the planting and landscaping?
I've asked them to create all that, I had a list that I went through, basically out of UDC, plus some additional stuff that I talked to them about. But I've given a pretty extensive list of stuff to put together. This is very preliminary.
One of the things I saw looking through some of the street parts of it was on facade of buildings that face the highway. And they're supposed to be all stone rule of decorative metal. That one down there across from the high school, they don't believe it's that.
Partially stone.
It's got a little bit of stone. I went back and looked at the original proposal. It had more stone when they did, when it got we not call that decorative metal, I call it plain metal. So if you want aesthetics, you gotta look at those stuff.
Well, this specific project here, I asked them to give a complete elevation of what the building's gonna look like from the front, including signage. I need architectural rendering is what I actually need for both buildings. One is just for storage, the other one is actually the showroom, whatever, offices. So anything else I should be asking for?
And things that face the street, what do they look like?
They have
If they're adjacent to other properties, what's the interaction there?
What about access and curb cuts and stuff? I mean, is it just gonna be one open parking lot, or is it going to have a curb and?
There'll be curb, parking lot. There was,
We pushed on Tractor Supply to
I was just
include
thinking that.
plantings and trees and leave some trees in there. That's not a problem, this is not a tree site.
but they do have to provide the landscaping plan. So I've asked them to give a full rendering of that as well.
That should be something we look at seriously from a aesthetic point of view.
I agree, especially since it's on 281 frontage and it first comes into town.
Yeah.
It is next door to P&Z, which has none of that considered.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean it can't.
It doesn't mean you can't do it.
Right.
Okay, so you all did, right?
Oh,
It
absolutely.
is what it is, yeah. Unless they sell it.
It's sold.
Then somebody else is supposed to do, come up with
You know, I think when the property across from the school, when the property across from the school came about, we approved that and sent it to council as an approval. But it was not constructed as I had envisioned, because it was supposed to be not a long strip joint building. It was supposed to have more, pleasing look to it than what it is. I mean, it's just a metal building. That's really paying attention, which is, again, we have to pay attention to these little details.
Gotta listen.
Part of the problem with that is that we don't always have the expertise to delve into, does it meet all the requirements of all these things, like this thing I just saw today. If there were a real engineering staff here, they would do that. But we just send it off somewhere, and I don't know what they look at, but other than that you can build it, it won't fall down, that sort of thing. But there's a lot of requirements, like you can't build just a straight building without relief points, either in height or depth. It's a requirement. I'm sure that violates that. I'm sure this will violate it. But we don't, unless somebody sits down and reads every one of those things, we don't know.
And I think aesthetics are going to be important going forward, especially in the city, because I think that's what the citizens are seeing. And so if we're going to be aesthetic right, it keeps the feel right. And if we don't do this, we're going against what everyone else is doing.
I would highly request y'all define, what was the word verbiage, decorative metal.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that means.
I don't know either, and I go ahead and look it up, but it doesn't make a difference. If I'll come up with one definition, y'all come up with another, we need to determine. So if our panel, some places may consider, I don't know, I gotta look it up, or decorative metal. Like, because it's a specific color, or it's not just raw. I don't know the answer to that. We need to find that out, because I haven't seen their renderings. It may be all stone when they send it to me, but it is a Mueller pre-engineered building at the end of the day.
I think some of this I found was like choosing a uniform landscaping thing. And I'm going to use the example of, I think it's Plum Creek over by Kyle. They have subdivisions along 35, but they have a white picket fence. Now, I'm not saying we're white picket fence, but why couldn't we do a nice sort of cattleman's rail, post and rail thing or something? So I'm not for plantings that are too close to the highway, because I find it's really hard if you're in a sedan to see over the plantings to see if vehicles are coming. But if there's a post and rail thing, at least it keeps a uniform look. It sets off the highway.
But it does have the privacy fence already built that will remain on there. It's the plan to remain on the property.
The privacy fence is side and back, right?
Sorry?
Is a privacy fence for side and back for the butters?
It goes all the way to the perimeter. Yes.
Okay, but,
It's a chain link fence with the tarp netting stuff up on it.
which is very industrial. I'm just saying if we want to keep a country charm, incorporate some sort of a landscaping requirement that if you don't have a lot of plantings, at least have this consistent fencing all the way up so it looks, you get the feel of it being, for example, a ranch land or something. I'm just throwing it out there because I really like the continuity of the way they did Plum Creek, because everything was going on behind it, but when you're driving, you get the feel that it's a cozy neighborhood community.
But this is commercial,
But
a commercial area.
it is, but if this can be a strip where they're not going to be parking, why can't you do this fencing? To at least visually, I'm just passing it out there as an option.
If I were here when this came, we asked him, what are you doing to make this fit in and not look like a commercial piece? So that fence that's there now, that with chain link and netting, that couldn't be any over here.
I'm not arguing with you, but.
So I'm saying, if I were here, that's the kind of section I would be in.
But that's the direction we need, because in some cities, they actually want you to build that very specifically as it has to do with a more industrial type facility. It's a lumberyard. And they want those fences up there. They want it to be separated off from the rest of the town. It's not, we're not talking about building a Chili's. It's a lumberyard. Whereas other cities want it to be aesthetically pleasing from the very beginning. I don't know that we have that clearly defined, or what we want.
The leverage one has is that when somebody comes in there, and if they want something, say, okay, what are you willing to give?
Oh, I'm already with you, I agree.
Well, I think
It can be industrial, but still not be honest.
it can be industrial and can still be aesthetically pleasing to the eye, and that's what I think we're after. And so, they're the ones that need to give us the drawing, and we say,
Well, they
we don't
do.
like that. But, hopefully they won't build it like KC, so they're grandfathered in. Hopefully they will build something that will, like they have a showroom, so hopefully the showroom will be more frontage on 281, so we don't have to look at stacks of lumber. We have to be careful here because we've got a lot in the city right now that needs to be cleaned up. And I live across the street at a chain link fence with tarp on it. So, let's be real here.
This is our purview for design reviews. Do we have the capabilities in this town for design reviews? I don't think so.
So all we can do is pick on a few things.
Right. I think we need to do that, but again, is that our purview?
Well, I think
is it step-
that's our county, our purview. And what we have to remember is, we can ask these things and we can push to get them approved. But when you get to city council, it's really in their hands to either follow through with it and build on it or not, because they're the ones that have the final say. So all we can do is say, this is what we would like to see, and we are interested in how it's going to affect the neighborhood. But city council is the one.
I agree with you. I think design reviews is needed, but I just don't know where that comes in.
You need a design criteria before you can have
Right.
design.
Measurable goals, because just
Think that's
saying
in there.
it has to look right, doesn't.
This is not, director of metal is not design criteria. You see, it was a valiant attempt. We just gotta go further with it. We're gonna review something. We can't review it by opinion. We've got to design criteria and specs that we wanna work off of. And that design criteria has to be something that council follows too. Again, I agree, we may or may not want that fence, but if council wants the damn fence and we took the fence out, and they're gonna have a fence, or vice versa. We just gotta get on, without the design criteria and the guidelines to do so, neither one of us can be on the same page.
Well, I had suggested we start a landscaping ordinance for outside of the immediate courts, Central Square downtown area. And I was thinking, why couldn't we incorporate fencing into it? And also we discussed it along Chandler Street, maybe possibly leaving some of those big old trees there. So if anybody builds along Chandler Street, they won't strip it down to the road. We've been kicking it around, but if we put it in an ordinance, then we'd have some teeth, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Chandler Street, what were you talking about, leaving trees on Chandler Street?
No, our channel house, probably. The channel
From
house.
there,
All across the Chandler Street apartments? Okay,
all the way down to the bridge.
okay. Well, that's important, because there's something coming up there next.
Oh, okay.
If we want to discuss this one,
So,
move on.
it's actually, our clock says 8:54, but it's 7:54.
Wow, I was lucky to eight.
I know you were.
What's the reason that this is gonna come before us? What's out of compliance?
Nothing is out of compliance, they're not asking for anything, but I don't send anything, I have P&Z review everything. Even if it's incomplete, I send it for P&Z regardless. I don't take administrative authority in the office, it's not, I'd rather have y'all's buy-in and council buy-in on everything.
Well, you don't have a staff, right?
Trey, I'm not sure it's required.
but it's a darn good idea. Any significant development ought to pass through you.
That would be my opinion and my policy. So
But it should come to us with complete paperwork. I mean,
it should.
You have the knowledge. You have the knowledge, you know what they're supposed to have. And when you let them come to us with halfway paperwork or little or no paperwork, all you're doing is taking up our time because there's nothing we can do until we get the paperwork. Now, you can tell them if you think that we're going to be agreeable to discussing it with them and passing it. But like tonight, we should be working on a zoning map. We shouldn't even talk to her on that food truck.
Well, I'll rebut that in the fact that we're not just legislators in here, we're resources for the community. And we have an obligation to provide a resource to someone who needs direction.
I'm not sure we are.
Okay.
The city is.
Right.
We are,
But if I give directions that are incorrect,
I have no problem with the lady coming 2 months ago, outlining the concept and saying, well, we join an agreement. So now 2 months from now, it's probably get taken care of.
I agree. And then she knew what she was supposed to bring. She knew what she was supposed to provide to me before the meeting. She knew it.
She did.
She did do it, but she knew what she was supposed to do.
And I think I agree with you. It's good to get, and we've had it several times, people come in with an idea what they're gonna do and you just get feedback.
Right.
And that's okay, as long as they don't expect anything specific other than, yeah, that sounds kind of okay.
When she showed up without any other communication today, I let her know. It will not be approved. You can explain and ask for your information at this point.
And I'm not sure, I mean, sometimes it's a waste of time if there's nothing behind it. But if you got a general idea of what they're looking for, like food truck in that area, it seems sort of okay, come back to the specifics. And that's not a bad idea, that kind of thing. But we don't want something just out of the blue with nothing behind it and specs.
And we've had that.
You know, we were all, when we talked about the food trucks before, we weren't any of us against the food trucks.
No,
We all said it sounds like probably a possible good thing, but we need the documents to back it up. She didn't have them.
I think if she had been here then that might have, then we
She
might.
did show up at that meeting.
That's right. She didn't show up in the meeting.
So this is not on us, whatever.
And so I'm just saying that I want our time to be spent well. And I want to help anybody that can help them, but you can help us more by making sure that they have what you know they should have before they get here. That's all I'm saying.
It would have been no different if she just showed up and done a 3-minute presentation at the beginning.
And that wouldn't have been better.
But I mean, it's the same concept.
Would have been much better than us spending 45 minutes. And not, we didn't accomplish a thing.
Oh, I think we did.
What did we accomplish?
Well, for one, I know where the food truck was gonna be.
As opposed to being on the front of the street.
Yeah.
They should have a plot or a drawing, but it never
That
did.
would have been better. And in fact, that was funny. He had it there where we could see it and then.
Without him, we would have been a different.
So she would have built from her, but at least we raised this.
I just want to add one more thing. Most of these citizens, specifically citizens, know they've been told things that they need to do and provide. And that there's also a lot of people that walk in that office on a daily basis and don't think they need a permit because we've always done it this way. I've been here all my life, I've always done it this way. We try to lead them instead of holding them down and choking them so they give us what we need. We try to lead them to it. Now, they're not gonna get their final answer. Sometimes it is a waste of time. It's also a waste of time on my day, minute after minute after minute after minute of every phone call to know about what we can do and how we can do it. Can we do this here? Some of it's the same property over and over again with a different developer or buyer or purchaser or realtor. It happens all the time. Yeah, again, I told her what we needed. She knew what she needed to do.
You see, that.
I also told her I'd come up to her office.
She did not know, and she came in, that was one thing.
She said she knew.
She said she knew, but she didn't get it. That's all I'm saying. I mean, if she had done what you had asked her to do, I would have said, okay, well, you're missing this stuff, and so we're not going to handle it, and you did it. That's one thing, but she came in with nothing except the application that she's going to.
I do not disagree with you at all.
That's what I'm saying.
So moving on to Chandler Street.
Oh.
How do we get to Chandler?
Well, that's Christine Street. So, there's been property across the Chandler Street apartments that have been called on a dozen times with different people. I've got a new one. This person wanted to come in and I'm still gonna have another meeting with them. But I think we zoned that R3, did we? You remember?
Well, that would be a tentative.
No, I'm not saying it's zoned, I'm saying tentatively, I wanted to. So I think what is that, Trey?
Well, I mean, all the blue is just residential right now. We haven't gone through it.
I thought we already kind of put something on the map.
Oh, there was stuff, let me go back to
We
the.
did R5.
R5?
We see R5 commercial, one or the other.
So across the street from Chandler Street Apartments, the question is they want to put in some commercial retail office space along with a possible storage area because some of it's in the floodplain. My direction is in right now is the storage area would not be allowed. I mean, technically in mixed use right now.
Is this it?
Yes, sir.
One of those.
It's all of this.
So we must have left that residential, put the R5. Is this R5?
This was one of those early ones that I did. Let's see what you put on there on yours and it's probably the same.
The one
We're good medium density. I did see, so we're on the same page. But as far as what we've been going through, it's just residential right now. We don't-
No, we did that section the last time we did
I
all.
thought we did.
Right, all we've been doing is defining the commercial, the industrial, the R5,
R5, yeah.
and then anything below that is just residential.
Okay, we didn't do the other side.
So that's not, this is R5 over here.
Okay, so that should be the
That's R3.
family, and that's just residential right now.
With the yellow was R5.
All the yellow is R5, correct?
I only bring it to you because it's part of your discussion. Now, we've gone from the people who wanted to put townhouses there. We've had the person who wanted to do some other type of commercial business, and now we're into a commercial with storage. I've already told them the storage wouldn't be allowed, because I knew it wouldn't stay mixed use. I don't think it's mixed use currently, it may be.
We don't have,
It may
we don't
be.
have excuse anymore.
I know, we won't, so that, the benefit of not mixed use would be no,
No new purchase could take that designation, it would have to take something else.
So-
Zone something else.
right. So the other issue that we have with that specific property and other properties is the county zones tells the realtors and calls with signs that says, and they tax it at commercial rate. That's purely for them to be able to tax it, mean anything about the zoning, but
It's nothing to do with us.
so the realtors are having, it's been a 3-day conversation trying to explain the difference and why they put it on commercial, but it's not really commercial. We don't have it zoned commercial, we have it zoned residential right now. And
And it abuts residential.
it does, but it's a,
So the most it could be would be R5 as a buffer.
that allows some light commercial and so on, but definitely not storage.
Now we're.
I'm pretty sure storage isn't allowed in that. But I have to go back and look.
Did you say residential? What's they gonna put on what store?
No, it's a light commercial retail office space along with, storage in it. Because they want this down here, they want to put, storage in it because it's down there.
Tell them to go look at the building across from the high school and that's not okay.
I don't disagree with you. They haven't got it far.
Don't do that.
Right now, we're getting a good section of what they can put there. And so most of the people are wanting commercial.
When I hear light commercial, I hear strip building.
I know.
Like additional storage next door to our apartments.
Think about it, though, this is what we were just talking about, design wise and all this, and look what they put in those apartments, and they did a good job with them. They look great. You think about the trees and all that along there, that's, And now somebody's going to come in and do exactly what we don't want them to do.
So what if,
Well, if that was an R5, they would not be able to have self-storage, storage yards,
There you go.
warehouse, or waste related. So it would not be allowed.
that's what I thought, I couldn't remember. Yes, you're right. That's why I already told them no storage. But what if they did take a elevation of Champion Place?
Yeah,
And you did something that was commercial retail below with living above that looked just like Champion Place. I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm asking.
All right, if you did commercial that looks similar to Champion Place, you could do that.
Yeah, so I'm getting
Something
out
that would fit in.
right, so we want to be able to replicate the area aesthetics. Okay,
Now, there's Chandler Street right there.
yeah,
And there's the apartments right
I agree with that. I just need to go that direction. If they want to do a retail space, then it needs to look something like this, metal roof, rock.
And you gotta understand, okay, here we got residential, over there we've got an R5, which is mixed residential and commercial. So we don't want something right across the street that's totally different.
what are they doing about this way with that whole commercial, that whole
there.
industrial van?
It's right across the street there.
He is renovating, he's only done his demo plan, he has not submitted his construction plans yet. That's what they're gonna do is it's gonna be a little coffee shop with some old car storage I'm not even sure it's open to the public, if it's just his buddies that have a lot of rare cars they wanna store in there, and then they're gonna have a coffee shop, or if it's gonna be just open to the public coffee shop.
When's he gonna bring it to the commission to see if he's gonna get permit?
He has not even submitted the plans to me, and I keep telling him, you gotta submit plans to me, he's
Well, they're
paid for it,
working on it.
he's paid for a demolition permit. No, right, that's
Look
this
on Chandler
weekend.
Street, you can see the other part train. That's just the side street.
My impression is that they're constructing stuff in there. They're demo.
No, they demoed, they were, as of last week, they were shoring up the wall.
Okay.
to do that. That's just shoring up the building so that it blow down.
There's one where they.
My understanding is that they're gonna bring in motorcycles as
Yes.
well, and that's gonna be nice and quiet, isn't it?
Well, are they really going to have a motorcycle shop across the street from a residential?
I do not know, I've not heard anything about a motorcycle shop. If I heard anything about a shop of industry whatsoever, it's storage for their showroom for their nice toys.
For sales purposes?
No, this is a
Electric.
private.
Yeah, but I still want to make sure like this, you know, so no retail at all. just-
No retail doors, so far as I know. I've pressured the guy to bring me plans. He cannot go any further than demo and shoring up the building to keep it from falling down, which is what they were doing last week, without submitting development plans of what they wanted to do.
It can actually be an attractive building. Windows.
There could be a lot of it. I always love that place. I always want to do something.
And we have to remember that they're right next door to the tavern. I mean, so, you know, it's not gonna be a place where anybody's going to spend any major time. But I'm just thinking, because there you can see the tavern right there. And the tavern isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. People come from all over to see that old country tavern. I mean, it's been there for.
But it has a lot of motorcycles.
But,
I see more pickup trucks. than that.
yeah, I think that's what they're on. But I'm saying, if it's a building, that's one thing. But if it's a shop of any kind where they have motorcycles, you know, I think that's I don't know, I mean, how do we go look at that? I don't know if a motorcycle shop is thing here.
They got Bobby across the street, which, you know, he's been there. and-
Yeah.
and he does good stuff.
Yeah. So he's
Well,
got to
yeah.
be careful about in there.
On the other hand, it's a corner lot and across the street, there's a lot of families with children living in those apartments.
Retail
And
sales,
without sidewalks.
retail sales and heavy equipment is not allowed, you know.
I think the bit that the buffer between the bar and Champion Place.
Depends on what it is, yes.
Yeah, but if it's what's been described, which is a guy with friends with expensive cars and they set the motorcycles and they have them there, they come out and hang out and they drink their coffee and stuff. That's not necessarily a nuisance. It might be a buffer. Keep an open mind.
You got
How
it.
much is that, zone right now?
It's probably mixed use in the old zone map.
Okay, I'm talking about on our R5 map. Is it a commercial? Okay, well then, you have a whole different set of, if that's commercial going along there, I guess that's right, because we said the government and the whole street all the way down was either government or commercial. So under commercial, we could put those,
I would argue that on the R5.
well, I don't, it's right next to the tavern and it,
That's what R5 is for.
and right in the front of it, on, Blanco Avenue, all that area on there is government and, commercial.
Government, commercial, but this corner, because of that, could be R5 just like that is.
Then we start looking at spot zones.
I mean,
Put one thing in there, spot.
Yeah, and then the ability for R5 next to be next to a bar would be questionable too.
And
I don't agree, yeah. We went through that before, that's why we give you commercial there.
I'm done. Y'all can proceed with that. Unless there's questions. I just want to try to keep updated with a few things. All right, and the next meeting, I'll talk about the same 3 properties with different ideas. That's really.
in the future, you can send me these little handouts when I hold the dock in North Carolina, and I'll say, don't like that, don't like that.
Make sure you get them, Mark.
I'm gonna send you one of the little box, and when you open the box, it goes.
Hey, when you're not here, and you're not on video, you can respond with whatever words you want to.
It's the same thing like you're up there at Single Spring. You just be out there, don't fill out.
Yeah.
It's up there.
You know, when you get, and should look for a new member. The idea of 2 people from outside the town, I think is a good. Having the predominant people in town, but having some mix of that in terms of what people are and what they do, is good, because that generates different opinions. You don't want everybody to be like me, or everybody to be like Christine, or everybody to be like somebody else. You like to have some little bit of differences.
We all add something, we're all in such a different variety that we add something to that, which is what we want.
So you
Probably is.
need to look for that in the new person.
Well, when, you know, it's hard to get somebody to find.
You can recruit.
Assign.
Well, folks, it is 8:15 now, and so it's too late, I think, unless y'all want to stay. I'm willing to stay and work on the map.
I can stay if you need it, it's fine.
I'm going to stay another half hour or so and work down that corridor of 16, 20, 30 or 25, whatever. I think that's the next thing.
Yeah, when you look over on Blanco Avenue while you're still there, why did you not finish out there on Blanco Avenue, coming back towards the 281? Did you finish that out?
You talking about that green?
On Blanco Avenue, make it a little bit bigger.
It's like when I do that 281.
Yeah.
So it's all done.
What's all that brown there?
What's that?
That's part where the city limits takes a weird job.
Oh,
What was the blue area? Let's turn that look.
Blue residential.
Was that Trainer Street and some of the others?
Where is,
Young Street, Spring Oak, Street Run.
where's the red down there?
Here's Lowe's and Super S and all that.
Oh, okay.
That's
That's
the
the
storage unit across from you.
Okay, so what did you do with that part? I didn't see, from the one we have on the map. I didn't think that was finished in there. What's that?
Which one?
There's that's, go for, let's see, that's the, I'm trying to remind
Here's
you.
the-
There's the seniors, right there. That, right there's a little bit, right there's the seniors. Okay, and then, okay, so everything else along there is F5, is that right?
R5.
R5. I keep saying that, right.
oh, that's your property right there, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
This is, this is yours.
That's you, like this, yeah.
So now we're gonna make that industrial.
So,
I know you were trying to.
Beautiful, that movie goes over to, and, check,
Which, by the way, I've been sending in complaints on because it's become a dumping ground. But
how many moons that? I don't think city does.
Stripes has Stripes has the easement on it.
Oh,
I mean, probably this thing,
It's a private road.
It's Blanco, something LLC, and they have a use agreement with Stripes.
It's a private road.
I've been researching because it upsets me so much.
And the road right behind it, right behind. Come back, little there. Road too.
yeah, it doesn't really even exist, does it?
I don't think so. Well, they have the name. They have the name. It goes on like through. Not be Gerard. But it's my understanding is a private road. If it isn't, we need to do something about it, because you can't protect it to there.
I understand it's private.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
I've got a map on it, actually.
Because they don't,
There it is, right there.
It's got a state stop sign, huh?
yeah,
Is it a state one? It has got to say it, right? The state one has got to say it's a state sign, right?
Unless somebody just put it there.
I mean, technically, the zone should be city street.
You have to be a tractor to do that.
Oh, the rest of it's like 2 feet. I mean,
Okay, so let's go to whatever section that we need to go to that we're working on.
It's going out 16, whatever.
Okay, so, yeah, I don't know where we stopped.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks like we did it already.
Yeah, I thought we kind of did.
Okay.
I don't know, I mean, it wasn't much.
Yeah, so maybe we did all.
I mean, because all that was, I mean, that's all gonna stay to residential, GUI, maybe we wanna discuss that stuff. I mean, 'cause that, well, actually, this got rezoned to being all
Oh, man,
mixed use, or so it would go to R5.
I think it did get to,
where is that actually? I'm looking
That's
at-
where that little strip center is,
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Arcade favorite place.
Okay, yeah.
well, it's fine. It's mostly empty and it's open.
Yeah,
Or not.
it just stands out because it's one building in the middle of the field, and
It looks like a shed. It's not.
yeah, I mean, it could easily be dressed up with a couple of trees or things like that, that would take away from it.
Apparently they didn't have a landscape plan. Or else they didn't do it.
So the blue, is, that's the church?
That's the church, that's where the library was planned to go. It's there for years.
Or
Why
was
do we have?
Or was
blue?
this the library? I don't know.
Oh, that's right, the library was here, the church owns that. Which actually, that's.
It shouldn't be blue, yeah.
What are we making church? Gooey?
Gooey.
you know, I suggested that he, off the high school, field people, I'm sure he didn't do that.
Maybe the reason that we did that residential behind that little strip joint was because he lives back there.
No, he came before us, before you were on.
He came here, requested that the whole thing be zoned like this, which I'm pretty sure was in that.
Yes, it was.
So it got done. And so now it probably doesn't make much sense. At the time, we already, hey, do what you're gonna do here, let's see how it goes. Maybe someone was letting go ahead and have it all be.
I would take the whole thing out. That makes more sense.
That's,
Well, that was just that first zoning map that they would probably have to parcel mixed use and the rest of it being residential, so that was
Yeah,
what
we
you
don't
was
want
trying
that,
to
yeah,
avoid.
right. And then the church land.
And this is the right figure.
Yes.
So back out all the way, and it looks like we've kind of done the whole place.
Yeah.
Other than, well, this is not in here.
Right. Yeah, that red line's the ETJ.
Yeah. And what we do is that under that,
That's the black hole for
oh,
in manufactured housing.
and this was agricultural?
Yes. Which was on,
Is the manufactured housing up by Buggy Barn, or behind Buggy Barn?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Okay. I understand that even though a road exists, you can't really use it because the residents like to leave their dogs running free there. Because I wanted to walk it with my hiking group and we were advised not to. It was implied it wasn't safe, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Okay, now, are all these mobiles already in there? Is that part of where all that is?
It's actually not too bad. I wrote down a bit of it yesterday.
It's a mixture. There were some that should have been torn down.
I mean, I think it's not mobile home parks that are.
How much acreage is it?
ten and a half acres.
How much?
10.5.
2.5?
That's that whole parcel, so I mean, there's probably 3 acres that's a buggy barn.
Right. Now, where is the Buggy Barn exactly?
Right on 281.
Right there.
Okay, so why is it,
Because all that's one parcel. So I don't think we can zone half a parcel one thing, half a parcel the other.
well, the Buggy Barn is not mobile home. Definitely.
What can be in the manufacturing housing district becomes some commercial?
I guess it's getting quite a film business now.
I mean, it would be right along 281, so.
If it was, but it's all one parcel, if it.
Right. If you were to separate it,
Yeah.
Would that be grandfathered possibly anyone? How much Buggy Barn been there?
So the only thing that would happen is, because we know that Dennis Moore owns all that, so there's no big secret. So he would either have to split that parcel away or see that property that he's in is a antique museum kind of thing with that western town.
Well, but
That
there-
movies, but which would be commercial.
no matter what we do, it doesn't affect him until the sale of the land.
But if he sold it and it was mobile home park,
Home park, manufacturing housing district. It's a mobile home park right now.
so it can be anything, is what you're telling me. A manufactured housing district, you can put anything in there?
No, I don't know that. What you do, that's why I said, but
I think we probably need to find that out there before we actually.
that was the only place we could come up with to make one.
There's,
Since it already is for the most part.
there's mobile homes back there, manufactured houses where both probably live. So that's not something new, but I don't know about the part there that they're up to 281, because they can't even get through there, you know. That road has been totally blocked off to where the Buggy Barn is.
You can
And
get it from back here.
they can get from back there, but they can't get from there to 281.
Yeah.
They can go all the way through.
That's why it'd be natural to do something about that if you wanted to keep this, but I suspect it's more valuable as a manufactured home than it is as a museum.
That's what I'm saying, that the museum is picking up a lot of gigs now for locations, and pictures, and for photographs, as little venue, as a venue place, so the use is changing
You know,
there.
they're doing like a party venue, a wedding venue, all that stuff, and this is, yeah, I don't know. we want to call that, but
But it would be grandfathered, right?
until they sell it.
Yeah.
So are you saying, do you think we're done? Is that what you're saying?
Well, just looking at it, it looked like we had gone through, I was thinking we hadn't gone out 1623. We had.
I think we were going north because we talked about doing some industrial up here before. I don't know where, yeah, that was one of the latter parts of one of our meetings.
We didn't get out to the city limits up there?
No, well, we kind of did, I mean, we left that, the agriculture,
Where's real able?
There's a little opening
So
That's
that,
all the front buggy barns.
yeah,
right there in that little opening.
so that's what we're talking about industrial.
right, but part of, or there was some discussion about making all this. So I don't remember if that was the end all for it to go commercial.
Well, that lumberyard would be industrial.
And where's the lumber yard going?
Right here.
And this is K&C, is that part of K&C or what is that? Must be, yeah, that's their big building, I guess. No,
That's the dentist office in front of it, right?
over here somewhere.
Yeah.
No, not in front of that, it's further down.
Oh, okay.
That's not part of KFC, it's,
It's a building.
yeah, I don't,
And express loop, where's that? That's something that we.
no, I don't think it's anything right now. I think it's a
So there's
building that's
express loop.
there.
Express loop, yeah.
So it's in now. So if this were industrial, and that potentially is, you could argue that that could be too. This, that whole thing.
And then you have right about 281.
Yeah.
Into the restaurant.
Further than this, little kind of thing stuck there in the middle. And that would make more sense. If this were it also, since I assume that's all one parcel, this part, or is that part of it too?
I mean, yeah, it should be that whole thing. Well, besides that cutout, I guess that's all one, according to the tab that I have.
So this building, they're going to have to be rezoned.
Right, which it says remainder of 40.23 acres, so I'm sure that whole thing is 40.23 to their survey.
And this is the smallest one. But I mean, to build a lumberyard, that's just going to have to be rezoned. If that's industrial, which is not zoned industrial now or proposed to be.
Right.
What is it doing now?
I suspect it's maybe one of those.
It needs to be agricultural.
That's what I was gonna say. I think it's got to be rezoned anyway, because I think it was agriculture.
Well, maybe next year. Is that it?
Yeah, I think that is it.
Yeah.
There it shows it as all one part, including K&C. That's the same place.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to consider letting them put a lumber yard in there, and can't put all that would be industrial. And what is around it, what's surrounding it, what the other is,
Open land.
Agricultural.
I'm sorry?
Brown is agricultural.
Yes.
That,
Sorry, you'll never.
I mean, the argument's for doing something this there, or this, which is already, and this, the major highway, with some sort of
So let's-
extreme.
you show us down, let's see, a little bit more.
And here's the small housing development. Offices, micro heating, cooling.
Makes sense that that would be industrial.
I mean, it gives it a place for growth for stuff that wants to come in, and it gives it a rhyme and reason
Right.
for it being there. It's not disruptive to any being in the center of town or next
What do
to
y'all think?
subdivisions.
Has a brewery gone on that far?
Yes, the brewery has this part.
This is, is that their filtered ponds?
Yes.
Some,
And with that in mind, it makes even more sense for it to be industrial. Don't you think, Rachel? or not?
Yeah, I think it should be industrial. I mean, it's like y'all said already, it makes sense and it's outside town a little bit, not in anybody's way. And we need an area, I feel, because it's coming, so why not?
Do you folks want me to look into just doing some sort of a landscaping ordinance? It actually was just suggested to me by a friend who was in zoning, and she said you might want to consider landscaping ordinances for along 281.
And we could do that, I mean.
I don't know, do you think it's worth my time to look into it? Yeah, no?
Oh, sorry.
I think it's worth your time, yeah.
You didn't want to change this.
Right.
I'm always for it.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
and I can help you with it.
I thought we'd give Mars a landscape contract.
Well,
Thank you. I'm sorry, Doctor, what you said? Do you think it's a good idea
What's that?
to do a landscaping ordinance along 281? Or
I think we could award Mars and the company the contract. Lay a bunch of trees out there, take the rest, 2, 3 natural born lines,
Is
but
that conflict of interest?
yes.
We should tap him for ideas.
Okay, so when you get this one done, then you'll send us one final map so we can all look at it, right? And I'm thinking, now, are we going to consider the R1, 2, 3, and 4? Are we gonna look at that and see?
Probably should.
We need to do that, I think, when we're finishing this up, so can we have another meeting in February? Just for maps, work, just to work,
On the residential.
It's unlikely that, because we're making a trip to North Carolina in latter half of February.
So we need to get that.
So I probably wouldn't do that.
but you'll be here in March.
That's the expectation.
all the month of March.
It's uncertain.
I'm thinking that we need to look at this and then come back. We should all look at it and make some notes on it, then come back and see if we can finish this. And we really have to look at the R1, 2, 3, 4 thing, in the residential areas, because what Will said is going to be coming before us again.
And I also think the presence now of the mud is going to impact our decisions too, to some extent, don't you? The impact of the mud coming in,
Oh,
it's going to change our strategy for housing a little bit.
I'm not sure why. How would you change it?
Well, our concern was smaller, more affordable housing sections within the city limits. It sounds like a lot of the housing, maybe there's going to be a price range of housing going in the mud. So will that take care of our concern for having that housing as part of our city offering?
But there are certain things that the part around the city center, it's pretty much gotta be R3. Because things are already small. Area where Morrison is pretty clearly R2. Calico Meadows is R3. There's some things that are just sort of a given.
But do we want more R3s? I mean, if we do, where? I think that's, do we want to put them down on Green Lawn or or do we want to leave that?
I would put the R3 next to R5. And in the area where they're small. So this is all R2. Like that whole thing. So inside of that would be accounted for R3. Now, where's Sayville?
15?
So here's the new part that's dense, so that's R5. This is Los Altos, that's going to be dense, so that's R3 or R5. That's vacant, it could be any, that could be any. 2, mostly 3, outside, and for some bigger things, maybe more.
What was, talking about Sayville, what is that? Was it already designated R3? Or we changed to R3?
There's been nothing changed to R3. Probably maybe did that plan,
No, I thought,
P&Z,
no, I thought several years ago, they changed this, to
no.
R3.
No. The problem was it was industrial use
Right,
in a residential zone.
and that's why I thought they changed that.
Did
I'll
not,
go back and look, I thought I saw something that,
yeah, I have no memory of that. We did this little bit down here. And now we've done this part. Did their development go all the way back into this?
yeah, it's got all this.
So that would all become R3, I guess.
You said this, I'm trying to figure out what is actual versus what we've got here. Is this actually R3?
We don't know.
The thing, the way they built those new houses.
I thought they permitted, they went and changed some of this.
This part.
Just the front?
But I don't think that.
Okay, if I wasn't hear this, I'm trying to figure it out. And I thought I saw that the state-built property was zoned R3, but they already petitioned for a rezoning, that's like 3 or 4 years ago.
What does the map look like that has R1, R2, and R3 on it? I've never seen it.
No, there is no map, there's paperwork that showed, that says, and it's back in 2017, maybe, that they positioned, because it had something to do with, because they wanted to keep this as office, and
Yeah, I just thought that was this part out here.
you've been here longer than me, you don't remember.
I wouldn't swear to it.
I'll go see what I can find on it, because that's my main thing, is there's a discrepancy. I was operating the fact that this has already been changed to R3,
Yeah.
but I'll go back and look, and we didn't get the discrepancy cleared
I
up.
don't remember
Where's the
that.
green line?
Right here.
And going forward, I really think it's a good idea that every time we change a piece of zoning on a piece of property, do it by ordinance, so we will have a separate record. We don't have to go through and read through the.
I don't know. Okay, here you go. So where's the green line? Down here at the bottom? Here's green line. Okay. And so there, there's some housing back in the park back here?
Okay.
Yes.
If you want to.
Oh, there's, I know, that's the Gales, that's the Keith's.
Taylor place is here.
Right, that whole thing.
And then that's the, I'll think of that name.
So yeah, there are some.
So we're saying that we're gonna leave that residential, is that what you're saying? And then behind that, back here where, state-built property, and there are some houses back there.
But the idea of that with this new development is that it becomes whatever.
Well, the thing is,
The HUD, or the HUD.
the thing is, this right here is not part of state bill, but all the rest of this is state bill. That's why I'm asking,
I remember that being reason.
okay, just that.
I don't remember this.
Yeah, that's fine. I was trying to figure it
So
out.
those homes that are right there that's on, 13th Street, okay, those are our 5 homes,
I think there are 3. I think they were rezoned to R3.
then they shouldn't be yellow.
Well, this is a proposed map, not an actual map. But it could be R3.
I'll go back and find, because it's happened in 17,
They're
18.
pretty close to each other.
18, which was the, I think it was one of the first meetings I covered. So that was like July 18.
So if you remember that, then do you remember all of it, or just a portion of it? We're
I
done
can
that.
go back to my notes, but I do remember it was one of the first meetings I was here for.
I've got a state bill file that has the paperwork in it. I'll go back and see what it was.
Well, you need to change those homes down there, at least the blue, until we find out what color blue.
Well,
They're not R5.
it could be requirements for R3 and R5 is the same.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at, I thought they were the same, so.
R3 and R5 are the same?
For lot sizes and setbacks and all that kind of stuff, they're the same. What's different is the uses.
Well,
But I think there are, I think they've actually been rezoned for, and I think the PDD for the state of bigger property said the base zoning was R3. But that was what they were proposing.
so will you find that out for us, Will? Is that over here? We can fix that.
They were replanted, so they would have had it that way.
The front part, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that those are, the question was, is whether or not
the rest,
Right. Right. At what point did it start now? Getting that clarified.
Well, they still got their industrial stuff, like, buildings like that.
Buildings are still there. That's the problem with that property. It was being used industrial.
So
Once they
you
sold
have
it,
to
that couldn't be
put
done.
those houses blue, what we're saying, that they're R3.
They could be ours. And it's the same density, it's the same standards.
If it's presently zoned R3, and for some logic, I'm not sure what it would be, we said they ought to be R5, that could be the proposal, but I'm not seeing an argument for that being R5.
No,
It's just houses.
R2 should be.
With the office building on the corner, or whatever they use it for.
Yeah, that could be R5 as a buffer.
Well, it was also aren't those apartments?
Yes. Yes.
So that was, I think that was. where the-
Duplexes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, duplexes are allowed in R3, so,
Yeah,
but not apartments.
I'm not sure what our logic was in making that R5 as a proposal. It doesn't, just visually, it doesn't make any sense.
That's 13th Street, right?
Well, the only thing there that is not housing is that property, the building that is stated on the corner.
Yeah.
And that could be an R5, but the rest of it almost, especially the houses.
I don't know, I can't remember why even we did that. It doesn't seem to make any sense.
I think they should be blue.
Yeah, the blue could be any of the orange.
Yes. At this point, then we can see how it shakes. and we
But
can-
leave the corner one with the old
So, yeah,
retail building.
yes.
Well, then wouldn't that be a complicated spot zone?
No, because R3 and R5 are consistent. One is meant to be next to the other and be above.
They're, I guess the only thing I'm thinking about is they're both residential.
Yeah, if it were index, it'd be R.
They're not like residential and commercial.
Well, it's the same thing as index, and it's still, you put a spot of index, that's what R5 is. It's two different zones. If you're just putting one spot in the middle of everything else, that would be a spot zone.
Remember, I made a comment that the housing ought to, the zoning ought to change at the rear of the houses. Remember, we were having that discussion? So I think it was kept whatever it was, because we had said the housing backs to, at the end of the housing to the front, and the back is where the zone changes. The zoning change from residential to commercial.
You're thinking that should stay on five, is that what you're?
Well, I mean, all I'm saying is if we're just keeping the corner as R5, then I think that's an argument of it being spot zone.
So the other choice is to make it all R3.
And can you do that on that corner?
Well, do
You can
you
zone it whatever you want. Yeah.
Well, duplexes are allowed in the R3.
Okay.
And
But that's not a big like on the corner right here.
on the right corner, but I gotta look at the allowances and see what's allowed in there for the R3.
Now, are those apartments or are they duplexes?
They're duplexes.
No,
Apartments,
there's no commercial allowed in R3.
is that what it is?
R5 lets you have the mix.
Right, does R5 allow for the duplexes?
And it, well,
That's what I'm trying to balance.
there may be duplexes in R3, I'm not sure about
Duplexes are in R3. I just can't remember R5 if they're allowed.
that. Then,
Duplex and quadruplex in our five, I believe. Okay, duplex is permitted in R3, R4, and R5.
Okay.
Multifamily is in R4 and R5 special permit. Quadruplex is in R special permit R3, permitted in R4, special permit in R5.
it was this, R4 is what? That, there's no
I didn't know if there was.
No, they had anything, it's, I can see
It's
it.
in here. R4 is multi-family residential.
Okay, it's for park. Okay. I don't, yeah, we haven't done that, haven't got it.
Got that. Okay.
20 units per acre.
And then, what do they have in that old stadium building now? What is that? The sales office or what?
It's been a couple of things. I'm not positive what it is right now. For a while,
There were signs and stuff.
no, yeah, there was, but for a while they were using it as a help center for battered women. I don't know if it's still being used as that though. I think now it's just
So that
general.
would be like a group home.
In the way that resident or.
That would be,
Well, I think now it's used as general office, I think.
that would be R5. Well, I don't guess it hurts anything to leave that whole little space in R5, but it's right in the middle of all that residential. Is what is the only thing that's holding me in.
No, I wouldn't make the whole thing.
I just think it's,
This is gonna be R3 anyway. This all is residential. And this is clearly residential. So this whole thing is gonna be residential except that building.
And how long is that building been there?
Forever. Longer than that.
You could still zone it to what you pick your zone and then the building changes zoning whenever it sells.
well, I think definitely needs to be some kind of residential. I don't think that we can put even an R5 in that section.
I think it should be R3.
That's fine.
Just make the whole thing R3. But it's really trying to depth into the spot of that one building. Just make it all.
Make it all, I just don't like the other part there.
So we have to come up with colors for R1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yes.
Can you do cross hatching and stuff like that, to distinguish the same colors?
Not that I found on there.
Okay.
I think we'll just have to do a new map and take all the other colors off and only deal with residential. So what we've determined on here and then go from there. It would be the easiest way.
I would say, you're right, need a workshop to do residential. Probably it's not a long, let's say, go ahead and plan it, but don't plan it around.
Okay, so,
Schedule so and so.
so, yeah, and just we can dedicate to it and we'll have a meeting to it, I think is, because we get into it and it's not really, we have to stop it. So, okay, see, that looks much better. It's just, it looks like it goes there. So, okay, so if everybody will send an email that everybody can see, of when you have available and have a workshop. So that we'll know that we can get everybody back and let's do a workshop sometime in February. And if, I mean, if everybody will just block out when they're not going to be there and we send it to the whole group, then we can work into when everybody has an opportunity to do that one night. And it may take more than, it may take 2 nights. You're going to be here through March, you said?
Presumably. I'm resigning after the March meeting.
Well, that's the first day.
Yeah.
Can you make
But
it the
I don't
end?
have to do that.
How about making it the end of March?
We haven't scheduled our move yet. We're still talking.
Okay, make it up. No, listen, the only, no, I mean, I understand that whatever we have to do, we'll do it, and you know that, but if we can just, we have such a group here, we've been through so much, and we studied this so long, that I would like to say, okay, we've done what we can do. And then if we have to go forward and have new people in and we change it, that's one thing, but we have down a fine line, but we've been working on for a year. We've been for a year. So trying to get new people in at the end of this, I think it's gonna be.
I don't think the residential part is that hard, like I say, there's certain parts of it that just are obvious. And that's the bulk of the land mass. And there's pieces here and there. I'm picking stuff off.
Okay, I mean, that's fine. So if everybody will send me, when they won't be here, if we can block out when we will be here, and we can.
Can we send it to you rather than send it to everybody, because I, always email with this.
Well, I was gonna ask, if you could send a template, we can each fill out our template and send it to you, at least that one, maybe this week.
Send me
we
just
just
calendar for the month. Yeah, everybody will send a calendar to me when they won't be here. I'll figure out when everybody will be here. And then I'll put it on the calendar.
It's just evenings, so, just in the evenings. Because you work, you still work during the day, right? And you do. Yeah. You do.
I'll probably be on the first part of the week.
You gonna do what?
First part of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, okay.
Thursday and Friday, you don't care? No, because of church.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's let's look at it on a Thursday or Friday. Probably Thursday would be better than Friday, but I don't care. It doesn't make any difference to me. I'm leaving my work. I mean, I finally just said, you're gonna have to get somebody in there to take care of this stuff, and I want out. So I'll be freer, but I'll make whatever time is necessary. Just send me your calendars, tell me what you're available, and I'll put a calendar together and send you all some options. But I think we need to get at least one more in February, maybe another one at the end of February, if we can get in here pretty quickly.
Yeah. I think you can knock the residential out in half.
And that's perfect. Okay, so let's get to the first one as soon as we can get all the stuff together. Is that all right with everybody? Okay,
I move there.
making a motion for, can I get here a motion?
And Trey second. I made the motion.
Oh, he made the motion, I seconded it.
No, check it. By agreement?